Frankfurt, June 1993. A South Korean executive flies in 200 top managers from around the world. They expect a routine corporate review. What they get will define the company for the next 30 years. Change everything, he tells them, except your wife and children. The man speaking is Lee Kun-hee. At that moment, he runs a second-tier electronics company most Westerners barely notice. 3 decades later, that same company will dominate the global memory chip market, sell more smartphones than anyone on Earth, and become its country's largest exporter. This is the story of Samsung, and of the family behind it, a family that would one day pay the largest inheritance tax bill the world has ever seen. To understand it, we have to go back to a small trading shop in Daegu in 1938. One Korean family pays more inheritance tax than most countries collect from estates in an entire year. Drop a comment. Does your country tax wealth this aggressively? Lee Byung-chul was born in 1910 into a wealthy land-owning family in Jae-yong County in what was then a Korea ruled by Japan. In 1938, at age 28, he opened a small trading company in Daegu. Dried fish, noodles, local groceries shipped to China. He named it Samsung. In Korean, the word means 3 stars. Lee survived occupation, liberation, and the Korean War by relocating and diversifying. After the war, he opened a sugar refinery, a wool mill, a department store. Under Park Chung-hee's industrial policy in the 1960s, Samsung expanded into insurance, construction, shipbuilding, and chemicals. In 1969, Lee made the bet that would define everything. He founded Samsung Electronics. By his death in 1987, he had 8 children, 20 subsidiaries, and 1 unresolved question. Which child gets it all? Tradition said the eldest son. The eldest son was Lee Jae-yong. Lee Byung-chul chose differently. In 1976, in a private family meeting, he named his 3rd son's successor, Lee Kun-hee. That decision would split the family for the next 40 years. When Lee Kun-hee took over Samsung in 1987, the company was still seen abroad as a low-cost manufacturer. By 1993, he had had enough. Before Frankfurt, he placed Samsung products next to Sony, Siemens, Panasonic, and Philips, and compared them in front of his own executives. According to Korean business reporting, he then ordered defective Samsung phones piled up at the gumi factory and burned in front of the workers who built them. Volume had to be replaced by quality. Inside Samsung, this became known as the New Management Initiative. It worked. Samsung's market value, according to financial data provider Guide, grew from roughly 900 billion won in 1987 to 318 trillion won by 2014. More than a 340-fold increase in less than 3 decades. But power inside Samsung was never just about strategy. It was about control. The group relied on cross-shareholdings. Samsung Life Insurance controlled Samsung Electronics. Affiliates held stakes in each other. The Lee family didn't need a majority. They needed the right percentages in the right places. That gave Lee Kun-hee what most chairmen never have. Permanent control of an empire, with relatively little capital. That control came with a cost. In 1996, Lee Kun-hee was convicted of bribing former President Roh Tae-woo. Suspended sentence, then a pardon. In 2008, he was indicted for tax evasion and breach of trust. He resigned, was convicted, fined roughly $80 million, and pardoned again in 2009. By 2010, he was back as chairman of Samsung Electronics. In Korea, This pattern has a name. Critics call it Chaebol justice. In 2014, Lee Kun-hee suffered a heart attack and never recovered. For the next 6 years, until his death in October 2020, he was absent. His only son, Lee Jae-yong, became the de facto leader. In 2017, Lee Jae-yong was arrested for paying roughly $6.4 million in bribes to associates of then-President Park Geun-hye, in exchange for government support of a 2015 merger that consolidated his control of the empire. He was convicted and served 18 months in prison. Park Geun-hye was impeached, removed from office, and convicted herself. In 2022, President Yoon Suk-yeol pardoned Lee Jae-yong. In 2024, separate financial crimes charges related to the 2015 merger were dismissed. The Supreme Court upheld the acquittal in July 2025. By the end of 2025, Lee Jae-yong was no longer just the heir of Samsung. He was its officially recognized chairman, legally cleared of the charges that once threatened his control. If you're following the structural logic of how this family kept control through 3 generations and multiple convictions, hit the like button. It signals YouTube to surface this kind of analysis. Inside the family itself, the cost of the system has been heavy. The first fracture began in 1976, the day Lee Byung-chul named his 3rd son successor over his eldest. Lee Meng-hee was given Chil Jedang, a smaller food company that would become CJ Group, a substantial inheritance, but not Samsung. Meng-hee never accepted the decision. In 2012, decades after his father's death, he sued his younger brother in Korean court, demanding the return of stocks worth around 4 trillion won. In 2014, the Seoul High Court dismissed the case, ruling the heirs had waited too long to challenge it. The ruling preserved Lee Kun-hee's control. It did not heal the family. Lee Kun-hee, in a rare public statement, said his older brother had been kicked out of the family a long time ago. In Confucian Korea, where seniority and family ritual carry deep weight, that sentence is not a quote. It is a verdict. And then there is the tragedy the family has never publicly discussed. In November 2005, Lee Kun-hee's youngest daughter, Lee Yoon-hyung, died in her New York apartment. She was 26. New York authorities later ruled the death self-inflicted. Reporting later established her family had opposed her relationship with a man considered of unequal social standing. Samsung initially told the press she had died in a car accident. The correction came only after New York reporters pressed for police records. It is the kind of detail that does not appear in Samsung's annual reports. It also does not disappear from the family's history. Lee Kun-hee died on October 25, 2020. He left behind an estate worth approximately 26 trillion won, roughly 20 billion US dollars, stocks, real estate, and around 23,000 works of art, including Monet, Picasso, Chagall, Rothko, and Giacometti. Then came the bill. South Korea has one of the highest inheritance tax regimes in the OECD. Top rate 50% to 60% on shares transferred with management control. The Lee family's inheritance tax bill was estimated at approximately 12 trillion won. By widely cited reporting, one of the largest ever imposed on a single family anywhere. To pay it, the heirs sold Samsung shares in tranches. They sold luxury real estate. They donated thousands of artworks to the National Museum of Korea. They paid the bill in 6 annual installments. In April 2026, according to Korean industry reporting, the family is set to complete the final payment. Roughly 5 years of selling, restructuring, and refinancing. to keep control of what Lee Byung-chul started in 1938 with dried fish and noodles. The system held, and in holding, it taught the family the same lesson every dynasty eventually learns. The hardest part of inheriting power is not building it. It is paying for the right to keep it. 3 generations. Lee Byung-chul built a trading company in colonial Korea and turned it into a national industrial group. Lee Kun-hee turned that group into a global brand through permanent crisis, 2 convictions, and 1 Frankfurt Speech. Lee Jae-yong inherited the empire, served 18 months in prison, was pardoned, was acquitted, and now runs the largest company in South Korea. Along the way, the family lost a brother to lawsuits, a daughter to silence, and roughly half of its inherited wealth to taxes. What remains is still extraordinary. Samsung's affiliates touch nearly every part of South Korean life: phones, hospitals, apartments, credit cards, insurance. This is what a Chaebol looks like when it has survived 3 generations of ambition, conflict, and consequence. Not a family that escaped the cost of power. A family that paid it. If you want to understand how power really works inside the world's most influential families, subscribe to the Dynasty Code. Next episode, a dynasty whose wealth was never built, only inherited, defended, and quietly multiplied behind closed doors for over 200 years.